For this week's topic for CIV 4284, we're going to be discussing planning and design for trucks. So some of the key things we're going to be looking to discuss in this pre-recorded lecture are what are the benefits of a safe and efficient road freight network, what are some of the trends, the issues and requirements in respect to urban trucking, and lastly and most importantly, how can we design and manage the road network to better accommodate the requirements of trucks. So to begin with, I'll just give you all a brief introduction to trucking and logistics, given for a lot of students enrolled in this subject, these concepts may not be familiar. So when we think back to what traffic engineering management is, it's a process of designing and managing the safe and efficient movement of people and goods on the road network. So of course over recent weeks we've been looking more at the people aspect, public transport, pedestrians, cyclists, etc. Today with trucking we're going to be focusing on the movement of goods on the road network. So before point of sale, which is effectively where we are now in respect to eBay and the like, almost all domestic goods were moved by road freight. Rail freight's been quite common and also efficient for obviously your high volume, long distance goods. So your iron and coal from mines to the ports, even moving livestock. And of course, if you go back long enough, when roads weren't really as good as they are now, and not to mention the equipment and obviously other transport facilities weren't as good, everything was moved by rail. But in today's day and age, almost most goods are actually moved by trucks or vans or some combination of both. Unfortunately, however, though, freight and logistics are not always front of mind to most people. I mean, when we think of designing for roads, we do tend to get a bit preoccupied with the cars. We're increasingly thinking more about public transport and cycling, but yeah, generally speaking, trucks, freight, and logistics are not usually well thought of. So, yeah, and as the first dot point says, and most of us do drive cars. Very few of us actually probably drive trucks, and probably most of students enrolled in this unit, both at Clayton and Malaysia campus, have probably never driven a truck. Of course, if logistics is done well, we don't see it happening. However, when it does go wrong, whether it be through congestion, safety, obviously accidents, noise, people do talk about it, and it does make the news. For a lot of motorists too, big trucks are inevitably intimidating given both their size and the noise they make. And I guess lastly is that road freight projects are not usually as politically exciting. So obviously being an election year this year in Victoria, we're going to be seeing, and we've already been seeing, a lot of road project announcements, but they're usually based around cars being able to get quicker from A to B, or even having a link from A to B. Road freight projects usually aren't talked about in the sort of to the same extent. But it's very important to note, though, that a safe and efficient freight network is essential to a functional economy. So obviously, if it is working well, we can improve travel time and reliability, which ultimately increases productivity. There's immediate cost savings for business. We hear all the time about the cost of congestion in terms of motorists, but it's similar for obviously the freight and logistics, because obviously trucks are actually stuck in that traffic too, and if they can't get from A to B in a time efficient manner, business ultimately wears the cost of that, so it affects the productivity and the economy of the city or the state as a whole. But of course, if you also have an efficient freight network, it allows heavy industry or logistics businesses to move to lower density areas and frees up, of course, inner areas. And we're seeing that a lot, of course, in Melbourne now, with the inner city areas becoming high density housing and businesses, and the freight logistics centres are actually moving to the outskirts. So if you go out to the outer western suburbs, particularly the northwest of Melbourne, like the Craigieburn, or out to Werribee in the southwest, you can see some big logistics centres there, so the trucks actually just come in and out of there, and they do tend to then keep away from the inner city areas. This graph here obviously indicates how the freight task has actually grown in Australian cities over the last 50 to 60 years. So you can see it's actually increased dramatically since the 70s and is only going to continue to increase. It goes without saying, of course, that Sydney and Melbourne are obviously not experiencing the most growth, but also have the highest capital city road freight as indicated by the y-axis.